The first thing she said to me was not hello. It was not nice to meet you. It was not even her name. My family sent me here as a punishment, she said, staring across the wide green fields as if the wind itself had betrayed her. I guess this is what exile feels like. And without thinking, without understanding why her sadness felt so personal to me, I replied, then stay with me. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment to like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the place meant to break us becomes the place that rebuilds us. It was a warm afternoon in early June when I first saw her. The sun spilled gold over the pastures, and the cows grazed lazily near the fence line. The farmhouse behind us stood quiet and steady, like it had for generations. My name is Rowan Hale, and I had spent my entire life on that land. I knew the rhythm of the wind, the sound of the soil under boots, the way daylight slowly melted into evening. It was a simple life, but it was honest. Her name was Mirella Voss. She arrived in a car that looked too expensive for our dirt road, stepping out in a white summer dress that didn't belong to the countryside. Her dark hair was tied back tightly, like she was holding herself together by force. Her parents didn't stay long. I watched from the barn as they spoke sharply to her, their gestures stiff and impatient. Within minutes, the car disappeared in a cloud of dust, leaving her standing alone with 2 suitcases and a storm behind her eyes. She was the niece of my neighbor, sent from the city, to learn discipline. That's what I overheard. Apparently, she had embarrassed her family, missed university classes, argued too loudly, chosen art over business. In their world of polished marble floors and silent dinners, rebellion was a stain. So they shipped her to the countryside like unwanted cargo, believing hard work and isolation would correct her spirit. The first week was brutal for her. She woke before sunrise, her hands blistering from lifting hay bales and repairing fences. She stumbled in mud, flinched at the smell of livestock, and stared at the endless fields as if they were prison walls. I saw her crying once, sitting behind the old oak tree near the creek. She tried to hide it, but grief doesn't hide well under daylight. I didn't push her to talk. I simply worked beside her. When she dropped a bucket, I picked it up. When she struggled with the wheelbarrow, I steadied it. The silence between us wasn't empty, it was fragile. One afternoon, as the sun hung high and bright, she finally spoke more than a sentence. She told me how her father had planned her entire life before she could even read. Law school, corporate firm, strategic marriage. She had once loved painting sunsets from her bedroom window, but that window had bars made of expectation. When she tried to fight back, to choose her own path, they called her ungrateful. When she refused to apologize for dreaming differently, they sent her away. I'm not broken, she said, her voice trembling. I just don't fit their mold. That was the moment something shifted. I saw not a spoiled city girl, but someone suffocating in a life that wasn't hers. I understood more than she realized. Years ago, I had been offered a scholarship to study architecture in the city. I turned it down to keep the farm alive after my father passed. Sometimes, at night, I wondered what buildings I might have designed. But I had chosen this life freely. She had not. Days turned into weeks, and the farm began to change her, not by force, but by rhythm. She started waking early without complaint. She laughed the first time a calf licked her hand. She painted again, using old wooden boards I found in the shed. Sunflowers bloomed across splintered planks, and suddenly the barn looked less tired. One afternoon, I found her standing in the middle of the field, arms outstretched, sunlight pouring over her face. There was no anger there anymore. Just breath. Just space. But peace never comes without a test. In late July, a violent storm rolled in unexpectedly. The sky darkened within minutes, thunder cracking like the earth was splitting apart. The cows panicked, breaking through a section of fencing near the far pasture. Mirella and I ran through sheets of rain, mud swallowing our boots as we tried to guide them back. Lightning flashed dangerously close, and fear flickered across her face. "You should go back," I shouted over the wind. But she didn't. She grabbed the rope, her white shirt soaked and clinging to her skin, and stood firm beside me. Together we steered the animals toward shelter, hearts pounding in unison. When it was over, We collapsed under the barn awning, drenched and breathless. She was laughing. Wild, unstoppable laughter that echoed across the fields. "I've never felt more alive," she said. "That storm did more than test the fences. It tested her. And she didn't break." In August, her parents returned. Their car looked even shinier against the dusty road. They stepped out with polite smiles that didn't reach their eyes. I stood at a distance as they inspected her like a finished product. She looked different, stronger, steadier. Sun-kissed skin, confident posture. They told her it was time to come home. That she had learned her lesson. That university applications were waiting. She looked at the farmhouse. At the fields. At me. "My family sent me here as a punishment," she repeated softly, almost to herself. But this time, her voice wasn't heavy. It was certain. I didn't know if I had the right to speak, but I did anyway. "Then stay with me." The silence that followed felt eternal. Her mother's expression hardened. Her father scoffed at the idea of their daughter staying on a farm with a man who owned more soil than savings. But something had grown inside Marilla that no one could uproot. She thanked them for everything they had given her, the education, the opportunities, even the exile. Then she told them she would not return. She would build a life she chose, even if it was messy and uncertain. They left angry. The dust cloud this time felt like freedom instead of abandonment. We didn't celebrate with fireworks or grand speeches. We simply stood side by side, watching the afternoon sun dip low over the pasture. She slipped her hand into mine, steady and warm. Months later, the barn became her studio. People from nearby towns started buying her paintings. Sunsets over grazing cattle, storm clouds over open fields. She painted resilience into every brushstroke. And I began sketching farm expansions at night, rediscovering dreams I had buried. We pushed each other toward better versions of ourselves. The place meant to punish her became the place that set her free. If this story has touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who needs courage, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support keeps stories of hope alive. And before we end, I have one small request. Comment the word freedom below if you believe everyone deserves the chance to choose their own path. Because sometimes, the world sends you away to shrink you. But in the right hands, in the right light of day, exile becomes home.